I should say I'm personally very proud that our aviation industry is committing to net zero 2050 now. On one side, because the target of 2050, it's actually aligned with the Paris Agreement to keep the world under 1.5 degree global warming. And it's also based on science. But on the other side, what I see is also a very brave commitment. You see, airlines are coming out of the biggest crisis ever in their history. And decarbonizing aviation, well, it's one of the most difficult to decarbonize sectors in the moment. And yet we see this unprecedented mobilization, this unprecedented commitment. It's extremely empowering, and I think we all need to be happy that it's happening now. So I see there's one major hurdle. It's applicable for governments and regulators. It's also something very common to people in general. It's this tendency to look for simple solutions for complex problems. An example for that is the environmental debate that we are seeing about taxes. And taxes can look like a simple solution, but in the end of the day, it can actually hamper the capacity of aviation to innovate and thus to address climate change. So decarbonizing aviation, it's actually a pretty complex problem. That is why we need to deploy a basket of solutions, such as sustainable aviation fuel, new engines, or operational efficiency. And the governments and regulators, they need to support us with a basket of measures that can include incentives, investment in research and development, and many others. So it is a complex problem, but we've done our homework. We know that it is feasible to address it, and that's why we are doing these commitments for 2050 net zero. Now, we also know that it's a collective effort, and that is why it's important, many others, including governments and regulators, to support us. So it is true that there's some NGOs and environmental groups that are pretty critical with aviation, but in reality, we have a solid common ground. We are all on the same side of the fence. We are all engaged in the same battle. We are all looking for solutions for a sustainable world. And our commitment to net zero into 2050, it's actually a proof in this direction. It should be the basis so that we can work together for this solution. And I can say it's pretty amazing to see the energy of this youth marching for the climate. What I think it's important is that we can power with this energy, innovation and creativity, because that is how we're gonna change the world, that is how we're gonna address this big challenge of climate change. I believe it's actually of critical importance, the public to understand, but also to support the environmental action of aviation. Why? Because public means passengers. Public means also people who vote and influence political will that will define if we will or not have the support to reach our net zero goal. And the challenge we face in the moment is that there's a massive misunderstanding of the role of aviation in climate change. We tend to be seen as bigger contributor to climate change than we actually are. And in the same time, there's a low level of awareness about a lot of the environmental actions that we can put on place or we are already putting on place, such as sustainable aviation fuel. There was a recent study conducted with the support of IATA in 12 countries, and we have seen that 1/3 of the responders have only heard about sustainable aviation fuel. 2/3 never heard about sustainable aviation fuel. And this is actually one of the biggest solutions that we have in the moment to decarbonize aviation that can be put on practice immediately. That's already in use by many airlines, and we need to support that. So supporting environmental action is important also from the perspective of the public, because in the end of the day, our objective is to keep the world connected. That has immense benefits for economies, for humans, and the public is the first concerned.